Hello and welcome to Alyssa Jean's Reviews. My name is, of course, Alyssa, and this is my monthly trans life update video for March 2023. This month the topic is going to be trying to stay positive when all of the news about trans rights seems pretty negative and overwhelming. But there are some silver linings. There are some things that you can hang your hat on, and that's what I've been trying to do. I decided to go ahead and talk about this. There's a lot of topics that have been on my mind. I have been watching videos by trans YouTuber Ashley Adamson and commenting on her videos a bunch, because she keeps talking about things that are very relevant to me. Usually just day-to-day trans life stuff, dating stuff, but I feel like that kind of stuff I've talked about already, and I don't have anything new to say, but I will probably circle back around to that at some point in time. But what's been on my mind lately is, well, as always, is the news. And I signed up for this newsletter called Aaron in the Morning, and it sends me updates on how the pro-trans and anti-trans rights legislation is going in each state. And it's not as bleak as I necessarily thought it was. I mean, of course it's bleak. There's horrible things happening all over the country, but not as bleak as I might have thought. So that's what I kind of want to focus on for this video. Usually I do an HRT update. There's nothing to update in that front. So I'm just going to talk about this topic instead. Okay, so in a minute I want to share with you this map of the United States that I got in my Aaron in the Morning update newsletters. I would highly recommend subscribing to it. Keeps you up to date on everything as far as how trans rights legislation or anti-trans rights legislation is going. And they put together this map that really shows you which states are protecting trans rights and which are attacking trans rights. And there was a quote that I read, and I think it was also in one of these newsletters, that the United States actually is not trending toward anti-trans rights legislation. That is not the trend for the United States as a country. What the trend is that the United States is splitting up into safe states for trans rights and harmful states for trans folk. So the United States is just gradually splitting, and that's what this map will reflect. So let's take a look-see. So the dark red states are the ones that have anti-trans laws already in effect. It has been recently updated to include Georgia, which just passed one. So this can include a variety of different laws. Some of them have multiple laws. Could be the bathroom bills, could be most of them I think are the prohibiting people under 18 from accessing HRT, from accessing, the health care that they need. So there's a variety of different laws like that. Those are already in effect. The kind of orangish ones are the ones that are at high risk within the next 2 years. They're in the process, and you can see the ones with the little warning sign on it are an imminent risk to raise up to the next category. So the orange ones with the little warning sign on it are in danger of becoming dark red. But in a couple minutes, when I talk about some of the positive things that are happening, a couple of those states have people who are putting up fights and fighting the good cause. So I'll get to that in just a couple minutes. Then we got the kind of pinkish looking states where it says moderate risk within 2 years And one of those, Kansas, also is an imminent risk of moving up to the next category. So that is, none of that is surprising to me. This is like stuff I already knew. This is stuff I feel like the news focuses on. And this is what I hear all the time. And that's why it was really nice to get those, subscribe to those newsletters and see that there's the blue ones too. I live in one of them. The entire West Coast is dark blue. That is the states with safest protections for trans folk. I live in Oregon, and Oregon is actively right now working to increase protections for not only trans health care, but also for women's health care for abortions. So Oregon is working on even tightening that up even more. As it is, we do have Medicaid does cover trans health care for all ages. So then the light blue ones are low risk. So there's nothing on the books. I thought that Arizona had passed something, so I'm a little surprised Arizona's light blue, but okay, we'll take it. And then Maryland on this map has the little plus sign that's imminent potential to lower the risk category. This map is now outdated. Maryland has in fact passed Medicaid for trans health coverage. So Maryland, I think, she might move up into the dark blue. Maryland being my original home state that I was raised in, so good for them. And then there's that little, there's this little circle inside of Maryland that's dark blue. That's DC. Washington, D.C. is great. Washington, D.C. is just great in a lot of things as far as their laws go. One more thing I wanted to point out is I don't know what the abortion version of this map would look like. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the abortion version will look very similar. Maybe not exactly the same, but I think you're going to see, if you're talking about abortion protection, the dark blue ones, I think are going to be mostly the same, and the dark red ones, the ones that are attacking abortion rights, are going to be mostly the same. I would be curious to see what that map looks like, because I'm going to go out on a crazy limb here and say that it's probably almost exactly the same. So what this really just reiterates to me, something that I've already thought a lot about, is that we as a nation are just gradually dividing more and more and more. We're really becoming two countries. In fact, if all of those dark blue states I just showed you a moment ago were all clustered together, and all the dark red ones were all clustered together, it almost would be like, maybe we should just go our separate ways. But first of all, that would never happen in any case. Last time that happened, we had a war over it, so probably not the best thing. But it would be easy to be like, can we just, maybe just like be two different countries? But that becomes even more complicated when you look at the map and see that we're spread out all over the place, and that also there are people within those states that are not cool with the laws that are being passed one way or the other. There are people in Oregon who hate trans people, who are bigots and wish we did have more of the anti-trans laws from the red states. There are, of course, trans folk and their allies who are stuck in those dark red states. So it becomes a lot more complex than let's just separate into two different countries, obviously. But it does feel like just we are separating into two different countries, not just for the trans issues. But the trans issues, as I said, is representative of the abortion issue and a lot of other issues as well. So now I do want to touch on some of the positives that I referenced. I mentioned Maryland, Oregon. I forgot to mention Minnesota has recently passed a refugee law to protect people who are escaping from those dark red states. So if you live in one of those dark red states, head on up to Minnesota. they got you covered. Pretty sure Oregon has something similar in place too, so you can go to any of the West Coast. Like the West Coast has the strongest protection. So, but if you don't want to go to the West Coast, sounds like Minnesota's got your back. And then in those couple of those danger zone states that I showed you earlier, Nebraska and Missouri. In Nebraska, there is one senator, I forget her first name, last name Kavanaugh, Senator Kavanaugh, who is filibustering the law that they are trying to pass, which means she just stands up there and talks and doesn't allow anything to happen. And she, in fact, is just holding up the entire process. Like, nothing is getting passed right now. And Republicans are getting frustrated. But she's just going to keep doing this until the session ends. I think it was like in June or something like that I read. This is just hold up for a long time. But I love it. I love to see that we have allies in state legislatures, just fighting the good fight. Missouri is another one. I think it's a group of legislators who are banding together to filibuster the law that's trying to pass there. Other states don't have these filibuster laws, so that made it more difficult to do this. So filibuster on the federal level, not my favorite thing. But in these situations, it seems to be working pretty well for protecting the rights of other human beings. So I will be keeping an eye on those situations there. But reading about those things does just make it so things don't look totally bleak to me. I mean, because you always hear about all the awful things, and all the awful things still exist. I can't just pretend that all those dark red states aren't doing awful things both to the rights of LGBTQ, trans folk, and to women with abortion rights. They are doing horrible things, and I can't just dismiss that or overlook it. But it does give me just a little bit of hope that that's not the entire country. That's not what the entire country is doing. I had previously thought I was just living on a little island here in Oregon, Washington, California, here on the West Coast, but there are other states too, and even in those red states, there are people fighting the good fight, which I really appreciate. So, I think that's all I wanted to talk about this month. So, thank you so much for joining me. Join me next month. We'll have a completely different topic. It'll probably be more personal again. I have an idea of what I might talk about next month, but I haven't decided for 100% sure, so I won't reveal that yet. But it's probably going to be back to being more about my personal life. So please join me. Please subscribe if you have not already, and check out all the previous videos that I have done where I talk more about my personal stuff and my HRT and all of that stuff. So I will see you all really soon. Goodbye.